3 there. Testes. Number 4 is supposed to be this thing back behind it.
Epididymis.
Epididymis. Very good. How about number 12 and 13?
Prostate.
And number 11? Ovourethral calipers. Either one's fine. And let's do, I don't know, thing 10. What is this big thing? That's the penis. So let's do 7 and 8.
Oh, corpus cavernosa.
That's right, the repetition. The top one is the cavernosa. The 8 is the lower one, the spongiosa. Very good. But now we're going to zoom in on these and use our lists. The name stuff. So here's where life gets.
Wait, Mr. Christie? That number, sorry. So the number 8 is now the cavernosa. It is the spongy.
Spongiosa.
Then what is, and 9 is the urethral. Then what is 6?
Spongiosum also glands.
So, okay.
6A is the
Prepuce or prepuque or foreskin.
Okay.
Alright, so here we go. Let's chop his wiener off. Right there. That's loud. Alright. So sad. Alright, so let's go through our list. So, on this model it's hard to see, but there's 2 tunicas to a testis and a scrotum. You look at this side, and you have to look at the real model to see it. There's a membrane under the skin before the testis. What tunica is between your skin and your testis?
Vaginalis.
Vaginalis. The men have a vagina. It means to pooch in. So your tunica vaginalis pooches in. A is actually on another tunica. The white part is your what? Albuginea. Alba's white. A Rocky Mountain oyster is the white part, right? So albuginea is the white of the testis. Vaginalis surrounds that. If you look at the model closely, you'll see there's layers in there. What would I find if I were to cut into a testis? What would be in there?
Seminiferous tubules.
Seminiferous tubules. Let's do that. Let's slide our way into a testis. Go back. This one. Ah! My mouse is working. Sorry. So if you look carefully, and again, this is on a big screen. If you look inside the testis, you'll see a bunch of coiled tubes. Those are the seminiferous tubules. What do you call the little white boxes the tubes are living in, or the groups of tubes? A lobule, like in your lung. So the lobules are like the white boxes, separated by septa. The tubes are the tubes inside the boxes. Then you have number 4, classic thing on a question. There's a little spot between 3 and 4. It makes a little net. Right
Retini testis.
there.
Reti testis.
Rete testis, or reti. Remember reticular was netted way back when? Right, so that's your rete, or reticula, right there. That's between number 3 and number 4. You'll see on most of the models there'll be a netted button-looking thing. Then we have scrotum. Okay, so we're going to do 2 different views of scrotums. Scrota, scrotae. Not that one. Okay, and this guy. Look at number 11. That red thing is a muscle. Which muscle is that? That's by cremaster. It's your joke now. So the cremaster is the hammock or sling that pulls the scrotum toward the body. So it's going to go for temperature control. So that's the cremaster. But there's another one, Mr. Dartos, which is not shown on this one at all. Not easily. This one. Okay, this one, the cremaster is the one they cut here. That would pull it up. But if you look carefully, it's hard to see on the screen, but there's a dashed red line right outside of that, in the skin. That would be the dartos. We call it the wrinkler. That's what makes the scrotum get all crinkly, and it pulls up. So the cremaster lifts, the dartos crinkles. But there are 2 muscles in the scrotum. Make sense? Yes.
Is the cremaster actually lifting the scrotum, or is it actually lifting the testes?
It's actually lifting the tunica, and the tunica is around the testis. So it's yes to both kind of question. Okay, let's find our epididymis on top of your twin. This one here. Okay, so B is the epididymis. Head, body, tail should be pretty self-explanatory. And there's going to be a tube that goes up this way. What tube would that be that pops out as number 15? Vas deferens or ductus deferens, same thing. Okay? So we're going to follow that tube around. So let's come around back. That tube's number 15 is going to go around the bladder. join this other stuff you just laid in the list, and then start heading down. So we're going to zoom in there. And you're going to go back to 2 weeks ago. And we're going to name the tube it's in. So it's going to come out basically number 20. What is number 20? Ejaculatory duct. So it comes around the bladder, then it ejaculates to here. Then we're in this tube, which is the urethra. But what urethra is that? The male. That one?
Membrane.
That one? Spongy. All right. So you already remember those. Now we're going to go back and name some of those other parts we glossed over. Go back to my front view. So if you put everything together, number 15, the plumbing, all that, what is that whole structure called? Spermatic cord. Spermatic cord is everything between your scrotum and your body, basically. What are some things that are in there? Classic exam question.
Gonadal artery, gonadal veins.
Vein and artery, gonadals, those are the red and blues.
And nerves.
Nerves, gonadal nerves, and the vas deferens. So even though on this model you can only see kind of in general what's there, make sure you can list the things that are in the spermatic cord. That's the wiring and plumbing for the scrotum. Then we're going to do our glands again. So what's that gland behind your bladder that looks like a funny acorn or honeycomb or something? What's that one?
Oh, seminal.
Seminal vesicle. So it looks like a honeycomb or whatever. That's seminal vesicle. That comes first. And then this one, number F, is prostate. And then on some of the models, they don't show this one. But 21. What's 21? Bulbourethral. Or Cowper's, they're synonyms. Right? The best model in town actually is what we affectionately call blue balls, the giant blue ones. Take a picture of those with your phone. They're very clear on the plumbing as you go through the mail. They're the best model in town. Those big blue ones. You want to spend some time on. But this works. Then we're going to go through our penis. Okay. What do you call the spot I'm pointing in here? What specific part of your penis is that?
Glands.
Glands, penis, or glands. Does this one have a foreskin?
No.
Let's find out. No, he does not. He just has a gland. He's uncircumcised. But some of our models do have a foreskin. Oh, too far. For example, this one has a gland 6 and a foreskin 6A. So on your test, make sure you know if it's been circumcised or not before you say one or the other, because you'll get it wrong. Right? But he has a foreskin 6A. So where's the root of a penis?
Kind of before that membrane.
Inside the body. Think of a tree. It's what's under the ground.
At
You
that
can't
branch,
grab it,
there's
it's a root. So between here and all that's root. Right? So therefore, where's the bulb? 10. The bulb is the base of the root. Because your bulbourethral is on the bulb. So the root's internal, the bulb is the bottom. You can't see the crus, but there's these little legs that stick out sideways. So look at it in the picture, but it's not something you can see on the model. The shaft, we all get, that's the part you can touch. The rectal tissues, we got. Right? So you're okay on the male macro stuff. Let's do some histology while we're looking. Let's go to JDOC, shall we?
You can see them.
And symptoms of the but the root is part of the penis before actually the body.
So we're going to zoom in. So here's a testis, kind of big. So how do I know that's a testis? Well, I see the little lobules, the rooms.
You can see the
I can see a rete here, basically. And I can see the little coiled tubes inside of them. That's what a test would look like, yes.
You said the rete is netted. Is
Yeah.
there something inside the net? Or is
Yeah,
it-
basically it's anything about here.
And
so
what
it
is
looks
that
good.
tissue? Or is it still the tubules? Or
Yeah, basically the tubes coil in the beginning and merge together, but it looks netted.
Okay.
It's the same. Basically, you're transitioning from this to that.
Is there a word for the connection between the lobule and the rete?
I'm sure there is. I don't know what it is. I'm sure there is.
All right.
Right. So let's name some stuff. Ooh, I see a layer on the outside of my testis. What would you call this tunica on the testis itself? Albuginea. That's the tunica albuginea because it's on the outside of the testis. The vaginalis would be outside of that. That's your tunica albuginea. Always the white of the testis. Let's zoom in on a testis. So on lab, when you get a slide, which you will, you want to be able to say that you know the gland or whatever. So that's a testis. How would I know that's a testis? What do you see that tells you this is probably
Tubules and
Lots of
interstitial
tubules.
glands.
So-
Cells.
A testis will have lots and lots of circles all over the place. These are some of the first tubules. And what you want to do in your head is look at the circles, identify how many cells make up the circle. Right? So if you look at each circle, how many layers of cells between the outside and the center would you say average? Lots or one? Lots. So seminiferous tubules are going to have multiple layers of cells as you go from the outside of the tube toward the center. In the center you'll see tails of the sperm. Okay? That's going to help you see the difference between that slide and the next one I'm going to show you, which also has tubes. I'll show you first. This one here. Here's a tube. Is that a testis tube?
Epididymis.
No. How do you know it's not a testis?
Because it doesn't have any layers.
It just has one layer, right? So one difference you want to catch on to is how the tubes look different. This is an epididymis. So it has tubes, but they're a different shape and number of cells. But you want to just kind of notice the round tube. So let's go back to testis.
Are those little sperms in there?
Those are little spermies in there, yes. So in testis, you have lots of circles. There are multiple cells per ring. You'll see the tails pointing in the center. And they're pretty closely put together. They're mostly round. They're not always round, but they're mostly kind of roundish. Right? So you see, yes.
All that white space that was in the epididymis tubule, like, is that just room for storage?
Yes.
Okay.
That's firm. But inside your testis, it tells me you're supposed to know some things. Let's do that. And you're going to focus on the cells that are in here. So we're going to zoom in. Here's one seminiferous tubule. What you want to do in your head is go from the outside in. So, the cells on the outside, like these ones, what do you think their job is? From lecture, you learned this last week.
Blood sperm barrier.
Blood sperm barrier, because that's where we make the sperm, right? So, what kind of cell would they be if they're going to make or generate sperm?
Goes
Spermatogenic?
You can say spermatogonia, you can say spermatogenic, you can say sperm mother cell,
Stem cell?
stem cell, you know.
I like
They're all basically synonymous with each other. But the cells in the ring are making the sperm and shoving them down the tube. Right? So these ones on the outer part of the ring are going to be your spermatogenic, spermatogonia, whatever you want. Okay. Now, take a look at this cell right here. You notice it's not round. It's kind of strange looking. Here's one just like it. That seem to be stretching down multiple layers.
Sustinacular?
Sustinacular, sertoli, or nurse cells. That's a cell to help the other cells. They don't make sperm. They feed and clothe and nourish and congratulate and give stickers to sperm.
Oh.
Those are sertolis or sustentacular cells. Then you will look at these cells right here. What layer of the circle are these ones in?
interstitial.
They're not in the circle, so they're interstitial or Leydig cells. So the ones outside the circles are named differently than the ones in the circle. Alright? For your viewing pleasure, since I don't think you noticed this, we have a beautiful poster over here that I would recommend you take a picture of with your phone at some point in your college career by next week. Because this will highlight all those differences I just taught you on the screen. This will save you on your exam. But make sure you take a picture of the poster. Right? But let's zoom in some more.
Do the Leydig cells secrete testosterone?
Yes, they do. That's where the hormone comes from. So the spermatogenics are doing sperm, and the Leydigs are doing basically hormones. So on this picture, one tubule. Name this cell.
Spermatogenic.
Sure, spermatogenic, right? Name sperm. How about this funny looking kind of cell here? He's weird. That's a nerdy cell. How about this cell way over here?
Interstitial?
Interstitial or late egg, sure. So you want to get your visual, you're looking at the circle and naming cells within or without.
Oh, lady.
Right. That's those.
But you said we can call them their cells.
Right, they're all same. So Sertoli or sustentacular or Leydig are all the same. I'm sorry, Sertoli, nurse, and sustentacular. Leydig, and they all have multiple names. Just pick one.
Interstitial cells are between
So then let's
Between the
do,
circles, the tubes.
let's do epididymis. So let's do the epididymis. I'll do them in the order of the sperm, not the list. So how do I know that's not a testis?
It doesn't have those layers.
Doesn't have as many layers. There's only like maybe 1 or 2 versus like 12.
And it has the hard
Not as
side.
crammed together.
Yeah.
Notice that they're funny shapes. This is like a oval, right?
It's a large empty space too.
Right, big empty space. So you want to lose all those clues and know that this is not a testis anymore, Dorothy. This is an epididymis. We still have circles, but they're different looking circles. So, let's zoom in on our epididymis. Here's another view. So there are lots of circles, but they're not as busy a circle. They're different shapes. They seem to have a bigger white space. You know, lumen,
That's
fancy way. One more. So, if this were on a test and I were to point to something, you have to tell me what these funny looking shapes you see around here are.
Sperm.
Yes.
Stereocilia, PCC, ciliated epithelium, whatever word you want to throw at me. But those are the cilia to help push the sperm out of school toward where they go. Right? So what are these things in the center then, Smarties? Those are the sperm, right? They have tails and all that. If you look carefully, there's a little red line right about here and there. What is that red line, pray tell? Smooth muscle. So we're mostly using cilia, but we also have some smooth muscle in there. Right? But again, that's a very different looking circle than the testis circle. Right? So let's keep going. Let's find a ductus deferens or a vas deferens. And the way you're going to tell that on a test is look at that muscle. Right? Lots of muscle. Why would it need muscle? Contract to squirt sperm, right? So all you got to do is be able to see that and say vas deferens. Now, usually this is kind of star shaped. It doesn't have to be. The trick is there's a lot of muscle bringing that to you. You're going to squeeze the sperm. To show you that I'm not making this up much, here's another view. Again, lots of muscle. Solid tube. Again, here's the center, but that's not going to help you much. You want to look at the muscle. So on the slide, if you saw that, you say, hey, I see lots of muscle. That's a vas deferens, walk away. All you got to do. Make sense? Or ductus deferens. So what do you think a seminal vesicle would look? Oh, yeah, yes.
So we don't need to know the 3 layers of the
Yep.
smooth muscle, just that it's multiple layers of smooth muscle. That's what it is.
Yep. Yeah, your list, all you got to do is know the way, the origin. So vas deferens. Let's see. Let's do a seminal vesicle. What do you think it would look like based upon the modelings?
Lots of fluid,
Lots of column.
white space.
Looks like a sponge or a honeycomb.
Sponge.
Because the things you see on the models are trying to represent this look. It looks like a sponge, honeycomb, I don't know, some kind of abstract thing. But you're going to see lots and lots of these funny looking, spongy looking things. So what do you call those spongy looking things formally? Mucosal folds, because they're full of mucus.
Looks like a dolly painting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever will get you there. And so, hey, I see a little bit of red stuff right here. I wonder what that red line could be. Huh. Smooth muscle again. But you're going to see lots of folds. Looks honeycomb, looks spongy, whatever you want. It looks like the models have on them. Right? And I think, oh, forgot my last slide. How could I forget my last slide? Now, unfortunately, J-Doc does a crummy penis. That comes out wrong, I know. I'm going to get you a different penis here. Hold on. Give me a second to go to Boston.
We need one that works.
I'm going to let that for comment just slide on out my ears right there.
I like that that's on the video now.
Yes, it's forever marked. I I have the class where people are.
We're not mentioning.
Boston. Classic penis. So let's figure out what you're supposed to know about said penis. Well, I think you're supposed to name the parts. So let's name the parts. Let's do the eyeballs of my clown. What are they called?
Cavernosa.
The corpora cavernosa. The mouth of said clown.
Sponginosa.
Corpus spongios. The urethra, you know. What kind of tissue is the eye and the mouth made out of?
Erectile tissue.
Rectal tissues. But what physically on your list would be a place you could sponge fluid? On your list, anything that might represent a sponge or a space.
Venous cavities.
Venous cavities. So in English, these are the venous cavities. You also see them called spongy cavities, the rectal cavities, rectal sponge, big word. But this is where the blood fills.
I thought the sponge was the whole brain.
Right. Then let's figure out, what do you call this round thing here and that round thing there?
Artery.
Deep
The arteries are deep arteries. So the arteries are in the deep part of the eye. We've got the veins up in the forehead, but these are the cavernous bodies. Now, one more word. What do you call this wrapping tissue that goes around the eye, around the mouth? What is that layer?
Tunica.
Tunica albuginea. One more time. So you're going to use the same language from the testes.
So
Make sense?
can you show that again?
Tunica albuginea?
Just the
Basically,
red.
this is red.
All the dark purple.
That's the fibrous bands that separate the.
Vaginalis and stuff around that.
You don't have a vaginals in your penis.
Oh,
You
right.
just have an albuginea. Vaginals in the testes.
What is around all of that? What tissue?
Basically, this is called the superficial fascia, which is another wrapper, and then this is basically dense. Is it irregular? I want to say irregular. No, irregular. It's dense something. Don't quote me which one. And then skin.
Okay.
So it's basically just skin on top of a fascia on top of a bunch of blood.
Why aren't there any deep arteries in the spongios?
Because you have the urethra there instead. So you use smaller arteries. There's not the big ones. They're in there. There's not. Big ones. Make sense? Okay, let's do girly parts.
Okay.
Yay!
The sponginosum has the venous cavities too, right?
Yes, all good. Oh, I was wrong. Hold on.
Oh, that's easy to,
Let's use this model to start with. Let's name some parts.
Okay.
Let's start with 19. Mons pubis. Let's do number 1.
Labia.
Majora, right?
Majora.
Number 2.
Labia
Labia
minora.
Minora. Very good. 17.
17.
Clitoris.
Yes.
Very good. So then, which numbers would be your vestibule? It's a good lecture question, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's in the,
What was your vestibule again?
it's at the bottom of the vaginal,
Right, the entrance or opening, right? That would be Minora 2, clitoris 17, vaginal orifice number 3. Basically, everything inside the labia minora is vestibular, right? So perineum, it says. Where's that at? Or perineum. 19 anus, which your anus is missing, but it's over here, right? So everything in your crotch would be perineum. Let's do. How about tube number 3? The vagina. You guys have any people point to this one and say the vagina? No, that's a urethra. Babies don't come out of there. They come out of this one. But make sure on the girl models you figure out which tube you have. Some of them have the anus on there, so you have 3. Some have no anus, so you have only 2. So sounds stupid and simplistic, but make sure you know which tube you're pointing at on the test. Right? So 3 is the vaginal orifice. So what's 16 again then? Urethra. Okay, so then we're going to zoom up to number 5 and 6. What is 5 and 6?
5 is the cervix.
5 is the cervix, so 6 must be the...
I don't see where 6 is.
Oh,
Where is it? Oh, that's the uterus.
that's the uterus. Very good. So then we're going to go back to 4. 4 is a division between your vagina and your cervix.
Oh,
Those
the
little V's there.
fornixes, anterior and posterior fornix.
Very good. Those are your fornices. So on this one, this would be the anterior. This one's the posterior. There's 2 laterals that you can't see from this line. So then tell me, what about this hole right here? And I'm pointing to specifically.
It's the opening of the cervix, the
Which
false, external,
External os, because sperm goes in. And this end would be the
internal.
internal os. Hey, I see bumpy things.
Rugae.
My favorite word always, rugae. All right. Now we're up in the uterus. So name this part.
Body.
Body. Name the poochy part.
Fundus.
Fundus, like your stomach. Right? Now we have places that are outside your uterus where it flops over. So for example, this space here is between your uterus and your bladder. That's a space. What do you call that space?
Vesico-uterine.
Vesico-uterine pouch. There's also one back here between your uterus and your large intestine that's not on the screen.
Recto-uterine pouch.
Recto-uterine pouch. The pouches are the outside of the uterus where it flops around, quote, quote. Right? Then we have the endometrium, which I'm going to change models on you here. Get you a better endometrium.
It's a good thing we know our parts.
Guess what? He doesn't have one. Give me a second. I'm going to find you.
We don't know everything. Sometimes I have to figure out which way to say it.
Forgot, he doesn't actually have one of those.
No.
Here.
Which side?
Go to. Let's go. There you go. Use rosictation.
Voila.
Okay, so back to where we were. So vesico-uterine pouch here, recto-uterine pouch there. And if you look at the endometrium, which is the inside of your uterus, notice there's two colors here. So you got the innermost one, which is what, pinky color? And the outer, the more deep or outer one is a reddish color. So what do you call the pink one only?
Stratum functionalis.
Stratum functionalis. That's the functional layer. It's the one that babies plant in. That's when you menstruate. Right? So if you think of your skin as bottom up, that's the logic.
Isn't that
here.
the part that sheds as
Yes.
well? Okay.
And therefore the red one must be the what?
So,
Stratum basalis. Remember stratum basali in your skin is the one that regenerated? Same logic. So the basalis makes the functionalis. The functionalis is what goes out of your body when you menstruate and the baby implants in. It's like your skin is still bottom up. On this model that I was showing, both of those together is the endometrium. So the endometrium is both of those in one. So what do you call then this layer here that is not the endometrium?
muscle.
What's that?
Myometrium.
Myometrium, muscle of the uterus. Right? So we got this picture up here. What is that thing there?
Oh, yeah. The ligament, yes.
No, that's one of the fallopian tubes.
Oh, yeah.
It's the one from the other side.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find this one. That would have been the same thing as number 11 in this picture. What's number 11? Fallopian tube or uterine horn or open duct. Okay, so then we're supposed to name some things. This is my favorite word on a test for the Brugge is 11B. What are 11Bs? Fimbrae, fingers. They're the grabber things for your ovaries.
You can hardly tell.
It's 11B, those little fingers at the
Those
end.
are the fingers, right.
That is the fingers at the end.
So what do you think 11A represents then?
I know. The infundibulum.
The infundibula, remember the stalk of your brain?
Yeah.
Right, that's the same logic. The stalk, all that's there. Right? You really can't, the isthmus and ampulla are hard to see on a model externally. So we'll vary over those. Let's do 9. What's 9?
Number 9. Ovaries.
It's an ovary. What's that white thing on the outside of it, I wonder?
An A, maybe?
Tunica albuginea, same as a testis. Remember, they're made from the same material. They're made the same thing. Now we're going to do the hell of the ligaments.
Oh, the hell.
This always costs you lots of points on tests, so I don't know any way to make it better. Okay, so what you want to imagine is your uterus is a hammock, okay? It's just floating in your body like this. Like in a hammock, you have all these strings holding it to the trees, and those are what we call the ligaments. So you're going to have ligaments pointing every direction to keep your uterus one place. So what you're going to visualize in your head is, first off, the yellow stuff you see here. That's like a bowl that the uterus is sitting on. And it's kind of wide, so So how can we say the wide ligament the uterus is sitting on?
Broad.
The broad ligament. So this yellow represents the broad ligament. It's what the uterus is sort of sitting on inside your body. So I'm going to show you on this model here, visually, what I'm meaning. Oh, you took it apart.
I put those on Dropbox, I don't have, but then I have.
Should be a fun one today. 1 second. People are watching, videotaping it. All right. So here is my uterus. All right. If I look at this part, notice this ligament here, like a bat wing. That's sitting in your body just about like that. So that's the broad ligament. It's what the uterus sort of sits on. And these models, it's the yellow stuff. Where's my girl?
Here?
Where's my girl? Ah. So you can't see it, but if you were to look, it's everything the uterus is sitting on is the broad ligament. Okay? So that's your broad. But then if you go back to the screen, you're going to break that down more than once. So let's go back up to the screen. Turn the page over, basically. You see the broad ligament is broken down into 3 things. So, look at number 13. That's the broad ligament, but it's the part across from or next to my uterus. Which of those 3 words do you think would be in the middle of the uterus? Mesometrium. You have endometrium, myometrium, mesometrium. So that's the mesometrium of the broad ligament. Make sense?
The one that
Okay.
kind of attaches to the middle of the uterus?
Yeah, basically. Now if you notice there's yellow here, this yellow is between my fallopian tube and my ovary. Does anyone know how you'd say fallopian tube removal in medical terminology? Salpingo. So can anyone find a word meaning middle of your fallopian tube? Mesoalpinx. So that's the mesoalpinx of the broad ligament. And this model doesn't show it well, but there's actually a little membrane wrapped around the back of the ovary. How would you say middle of the ovary? Mesovarian. So the broad ligament has 3 chunks. Mesometrium, mesoalpinx, mesovarian. And if you look in your lab manual, they have a very good job of labeling those. Make sure you know the 3 parts of a broad ligament. The other ones are actually pretty easy.
Where was the mesovarian?
The meso, which one?
Ovarian.
Yeah, you can't see it on the model, but it's around the ovary. You can see these in the picture. Look at number 12. That's a round thing going forward to pubic bone from your uterus. It's kind of round. What is it?
Ligament.
That's the round ligament. Pregnant women complain of their round ligament stretching. That's because of that. Okay? If you look carefully where number 5 is not pointing but physically looking, there's a ligament right here that go back to your sacrum. How would you say ligament back to your sacrum?
Uterosacral.
Uterosacral. So you have 2 rounds going front, 2 uterosacrals going back, the broad's going underneath. That leaves the ovarian ligament for us. Can anyone guess what number up here is an ovarian ligament? Please say number 10.
Number 10.
Number 10. That's the ovarian ligament because it holds my ovary to your uterus. The suspensories are not shown on any of the models, but they would hang down and hold your ovaries up, basically.
So will you give us a picture of that?
I get a word description,
Okay.
but none of them I'll show. So if I run through all those, I have a round in the front, uterosacral in the back, ovarian on the side, broad underneath with the mesometrium, mesoalpinx, and mesovarian. Those are the ligaments of the uterus. Except there's a poster back here that you want to take pictures of as well. Where is my girly poster? Oh, that's a boy.
Could be a girl.
Should be. So, this poster will save your soul. So, it has, thank you, it has a very good picture showing the mesoalpinx and all that on here. And by the way, it has a very good vulva picture, not that I'm looking at that, but you want to look at that too and find labia and all that fun stuff from the external view. But this poster has been known to appear on lots of lab quizzes and exams. It's go and it shows a lot of the girly parts in a good way. So make sure you take a picture of that one. That's what you want to do. So then what we're going to do,
You're immortalized on YouTube.
you're on YouTube holding genitals. I know. All right. Let's get the What am I doing?
Histology.
Oh, thank you.
Are you gonna do mammary glands?
Hmm?
After.
I'll do that next. Let's do. All right. Okay, the problem with your slides is they look horrible and they don't look like this. But you can get the gist from your slides. So this is a uterus. You saw me click it. The way I'd know that's a uterus is there's a white space up here. That's the lumen where the baby would live. And then you see these long, we call them snakes, but they're not snakes. These are glands, right? This is the endometrium. This is the part that you would grow and slough off during your ovulatory cycle. So if you see a white space with these funny-looking snake-like things, that's your uterus, and that's the endometrium of the uterus. Looking at that picture, can you guess for me which part's the stratum functionalis versus the stratum basalis? Can you see a difference?
Wouldn't the functionalis be towards the lumen?
And the bottom part
Yell
would
when
be
you think about the stratum
basalis.
basale.
You're saying that's the
Start clapping.
basale?
Yes.
Not yet.
Right here?
Yeah, now.
Yeah. So there's no line in the sand. It's not like in skin where you just draw a line. But you can tell that this part looks different than this part in terms of density and shape. So the stratum functionalis is about here up. Stratum basalis is about here down. Right? But there's no magical spot. Right? You can kind of see it. So if I do another picture, uterus again. I have white space. I have worms. Okay, functionalis would be from here to about yay.
Yeah.
Basalis would be about here to here.
4 cups.
Hey, what's this? It's muscle. What's that? Myometrium. So you want to look for uterus and be able to figure out kind of vaguely where the line is. It's kind of a judgment call, right? Unfortunately, your slides are pretty bad for that. Let's do this one. What is that?
Uterine tube?
Uterine tube or oviduct fallopian tube. How would I know that if I saw that? Snowflake. It looks like a snowflake. Very good. So it oftentimes has a snowflake. It doesn't always, but it looks like a snowflake. You're also going to notice it has muscle. How much muscle compared to a vas deferens?
Less.
Less. So it's a tube, right? It has muscle, but it doesn't have as much as a vas deferens. It also has this funny snowflakey kind of appeal to it. Vas deferens does not. And just to show you that it varies somewhat, I mean the oviduct's on the right. So again, you can tell it's a tube, you can tell there's muscle, but not as much, and then this is sort of strange. So it varies a lot, but you get the idea: snowflake with a little bit of muscle.
And what's that on the left?
That's a vein.
Oh.
That's a vein. That's a 232 word.
Really?
Let's zoom in on my uterine tube, shall I?
Yeah.
I shall. So, what do you call the snowflake? Folded mucosa. Who else had mucosal folds? Male gland, fluid, 2 words, sounds like
Seminal vesicle.
seminal vesicle. Right? So we have mucosal folds or folded mucosa. If you look carefully, there'd be some cilia on there. You can barely figure out that they're there. But there'd be cilia to help move the sperm and egg along. Right? So again, it looks similar to the male tubes, but it's just different looking in terms of the structure. Then we're going to do our last one for the girl slides. This would be the esophagus if it wasn't in the wrong place of your body.
Vagina.
That's a vagina because it has what kind of tissue?
Stratified squamous.
Yes. And usually, but not always, they have this waviness to them, and then you have these mucosal exudate glands like that. But it looks like an esophagus because same kind of things for protection. So stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Okay. Every time. There's a close-up. Stratified squamous.
Stratified squamous everywhere.
Kind of wavy. You okay those?
Ah.
All right, so let's do breasts. Let's do boobs. All right. Get a model of something on here.
I hope so.
All right, let's do this one. Let's do number 3.
Nipple.
That's a nipple. Let's do number 1.
Areola.
Areola is the colored ring. Let's do kind of 5. What are 5s?
Looks like
The
a
gland.
close,
The ducts.
but it's.
Lobes. So you want to think lungish, right?
Uh,
So lobes are each chunk, for lack of a better word. So here's sort of a chunk, here's sort of a chunk, here's sort of a chunk. So they're lobes, just like in your lungs.
Oh, that's what it's
I
pointing.
thought it was pointing at the, I mean, I
Well,
thought it was
yeah.
about the yellow stuff.
Kind of. It's not supposed to be the yellow stuff. It's supposed to be the white stuff.
Yeah.
So then let's look in each chunk. You notice there's little regions. Like here's a lump, here's a lump, here's a lump on the bigger lump. What do you call smaller lumps on big lumps? Globules. Same thing. So we went from the mountain range to the group of hills. Then, if you look carefully, each one of these has little teeny circles on it. What do you think those would be if that were a lung? What do you call them in a breast? Exactly the same. They're sacs. So the lobes have lobules, the lobules have circles. Right? So each rock on the mountain in the Cascade Range. Another way to look at it, this is a really kind of ugly, strange model, but works. I zoom in on that. So if it were me,
Ooh, what was
Yeah,
that like?
that looks really
this is sort of a lobe,
scary.
this is sort of a
It's
lobe.
like a pomegranate.
That's sort of, yeah, pomegranate kind of lobe. Let's say, well then this is a lobule, this is a lobule, that's a lobule because it's 3 things in one. And then each circle I would say is an alveolus. Right, that's kind of how I interpret it. You can get people arguing about that. But you're basically breaking down the bumps. Then let's see, oh hey, what's this big funny tube? Lactiferous duct, which is actually a milk duct. It's perfectly allowed to say milk duct, but
No.
this is a doctor word, right? Lactiferous. The hard thing to catch on to is right here. This one's hard to see because the
Like a
color.
sinus?
But yes, there's a sinus. Let me zoom out here a little bit.
What, number 4 would
Look at number 4.
Yeah, so it's closer to the
Yeah, number
nipple.
4.
Right. So each milk duct comes down. There's a little teeny sinus or space where each duct before the nipple. That's the closest you get to an udder in a primate. Right there. Those are the sinuses.
Would you accept milk sinus? You're going to accept milk though.
Depends on my mood, but officially no. Depends how argumentative I want to be that day. Right.
Probably pretty agitated.
Yeah, it depends how much caffeine I had, so how much chocolate. You know.
Is that Diet Coke?
Yes.
Okay.
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups and Diet Coke, breakfast of champions. Right.
Noted.
So, oh, one more thing. What's this white tissue that looks like it's hanging down?
Suspensory
That's your ligaments. That's what holds them up, is the ligaments basically from your chest muscles hang them down. Right?
So what's 6?
6? I don't know. Probably just going to say pectoralis.
Versus
Gotcha.
No,
suspensory
6
Let's see what it says.
What? Looks like
Yeah,
fat.
You need
that
this.
Is that the suspensory
Eight
ligament?
Yes.
would be the
The
most.
white
Sensory
part.
ligaments, is that responsible whether the
Yeah.
breast would be more
5 is pointing
firm?
up
Yep.
and to the
So,
right. That might
because of
still there.
obviously child
This is
delivery
suspensory
Yep.
Oh, kind of between the white and...
between 9 and 5.
Yep. Yeah, so as gravity wears out or whatever, you just, like any ligament, you can stretch it over time.
Right, that
They
white
decide
space
more.
right there.
You snip it and pull it, that's what you're doing.
It's kind of where the
Breast
red
lift is
and
doing
it
exactly
straight
that.
down along
Yeah.
there.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's it.
Or if you strengthen the chest muscles here, as they contract, they'll pull the ligaments a little harder. But yeah, if gravity is ligaments stretch, they tend not to want to go back. So
Pectoralis
that's the
major.
reality of it. So then we're supposed to look at a slide of this.
Okay.
All right, let's do mammary gland slides.
I don't see any memory gland slides. Oh, 91 and 92. Never mind.
I'll do this one. All right. So depending on the slide you have, there's some variability here, so don't overanalyze. But this is a breast tissue, mammary gland, whatever you call it. And these circles represent the actual glands or alveoli making the milk. So everything you see is background and just connective tissue or fat. The milk is actually these things. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at those circles, and out of like gut reaction, are they kind of big or little compared to everything else that's there?
So the
Big.
larger filled space that's with the glands Is
Yep.
that just a really large gland, or is that like a duct?
That's gonna be a duct, that's gonna be a tube.
Active
now.
duct.
So compared to everything else, they seem like there's a lot of them or a few of them?
Few,
Few, seem big or small, kind of.
small.
They're kind of small. So this would be an inactive
I've seen
or
one
not
that's
lactating
small
one.
and it's busy.
You're not making milk.
Oh, okay.
What you want to do is take a picture of that with your head, right?
We'll see in a moment. but-
And then compare it to this one
Just busy.
here. What do
There
you
you go.
notice?
Lots.
A lot more glands.
And fatter.
They're bigger, there's more of them, they're shoved everywhere, and you're compressing the other tissue. So as you milk more, these get bigger, hence they're larger size, right? You can see that they're producing more fluid. There's just, obviously there's more activity, so lactating, right? The problem is you can end up with ones that look kind of in between.
Oh, great. That's exactly.
Like that one.
God, it looks like it's active.
That looks
Right, now
active.
JDoc says that's inactive. If I looked at that, I would
Active.
probably say active just because I know how inactive tends to look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand that you can do that. I'm not overly concerned with how precise you are. But here's one that's actually lactating.
Ooh,
Now you
that's
can tell
real
'cause it's
big.
thick.
Those are huge, right? Here's the milk, right? Huge alveoli taking up the whole stinking thing, right? So basically the size of the gland should increase as the activity goes up. So on your slides, you're going to see something that's not quite like this. You're probably going to see something like, maybe something like this versus something like that. You can make that distinction, then you understand the difference. Make sense? Okay, so what I'm going to do for just a couple minutes, I'm going to randomly hit you with a slide, because I know that's where you want to start. And we're going to do some slide naming playing. Just a second to get the page. I'm going to go right here. Here.
I won't recognize some of these lines.
Okay. Name it.
Just saying.
That's sperm.
Yeah.
Epididymis.
Is this a boy or a girl part?
That's a
Okay,
boy.
we're good. We got some more. So that it's got tubes, right? So there's only two options for tubes.
Epididymis.
Testis or epididymis? Which one?
Epididymis.
Epididymis. Because I have big tubes, only one layer in the ring, lots of sperm, there's lots of white space. So that's not a testis. Testis have multiple layers. Be really tight. So it's
Aren't those like
epididymis.
some sperms there in the interstitial there?
Yeah, it's sperm.
They're like actually moving around there, yeah.
No, that's just.
It's-
What that is. They shouldn't be out there, no.
They should.
Should be in here. Maybe they are.
They got out of the.
They-
They got the activator.
We got the activator. That's two.
They're on speed.
This is low magnification, so it's a little different.
Testis.
Lots of circles.
Let me
all over.
zoom in on that.
Oh, no.
Right, so it does
Kind
have
of
the coastal
thick, though.
folds there.
This is
It'll look like that. Seminal
Looks
vesicle.
like a sponge.
Like a
Yep.
sponge.
That's
Here's
right.
my mucosal folds, here's my smooth muscle, that's my sponge.
That's easier to see.
Right, that's the sponge. Seminal vesicle, that's the gland behind your bladder.
That makes sense.
I can't see.
Fine.
I can see the rice patties.
Let's try. What do I try? Oh,
It's an eye.
It's testes.
it is
That's
testis. Very good.
Oh, wow.
So, let me play with that one for a second, and ask you something specifically about it.
Yeah, where it looks like an,
Evil man.
one of those puffy seed things. Dandelion.
So when you say
That's what I
testis,
should
though, would you accept seminiferous tubes?
Yes. Yes. So, where my mouse is pointing, that cell there.
Interstitial.
Dannuol, yes, interstitial cells, or Leydig cells, right? The ones that are between the circles. Right. Too easy, Drill Sergeant.
Yeah.
No problem. You gotta tip your head sideways.
That's a penis!
That's a penis.
Oh.
Right? Angry clown. Alright? So let's name this red line here.
That is.
Tunica Abuginia. Very good. Very easy. Alright. Let's try.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Name the organ. Can't look to the left.
Uterus.
The uterus.
Oh,
How did you
because
know?
it's got the squiggly.
I see squiggly on the wormy uterine glands. Here's my baby lives here. Here's my endometrium. So all this must be the myometrium. Very good. So look for those worm type things. Spaghetti, some people call it. Whatever. We'll try this one. Let's do. Oh, okay. I don't want that one. Hold on. I'll leave it that one. I'll leave it that one too.
Oh, yes.
You're gonna hate me for all three of these. Okay. Okay, you're gonna hate me for this picture.
Oh boy.
It's not. The reason you're gonna hate me is I wish this part were thicker.
Is that
By
an
the way.
uterine? Uterine tube?
It looks like that, but it's not.
It's a uterine.
Uterine.
tube.
Uterine tube oviduct. Normally this would be
Looks like a weird
thicker.
snowflake.
That's the snowflake, but they didn't have a thick enough line on it. That's the snowflake, which looks like a vesicle. That's a snowflake. Let's try. Close up.
Vagina.
Indeed it is. We're not insert joke now, right?
Oh,
No, it's a
no,
gland.
the glands of the breast.
The boob it is.
It's inactive.
It's pretty much inactive because notice that these are kind of few, not really, I mean it's hard to tell without any other option, but I see there's very few of them, there's a lot of background, I'm going to say inactive mammary gland. Make sense? Very good. So, use the rest of your time as you see fit.
Yay.
Lecture exam next week.
I am recording.
Oh no, all my bad jokes are going to permanently on. As far as I'm not sued for harassment. Alright. Let's start.
Okay.
So, testes, epididymis, vas deferens. This is the ampulla. Enters the seminal vesicle. They combine to make the ejaculatory duct. That enters the prostatic urethra, the membranous urethra, and the spongior penile urethra. So if I go back and kind of find more parts here, so we have in the penis, we have the bulb, which is the back, which is next to the bulbourethral gland. This is the corpus spongiosum, the spongy tissue. This represents one of the corpora cavernosa, erectile tissues. This is the glans, penis, and this would be the foreskin of the penis.
You have the body of the penis?
Oh, body would be, well, shaft would be basically what you can grab.
Yeah.
Root is what you can't.
Root, oh, root, okay.
Then we have the prostate gland is number 7, seminal vesicle is number 5, bulbourethral is number 8. So then if I go and dig up some more, let's go this one. So on this one. So, if only they worked like that in real life, right? So in my scrotal part here, I'm going to have the skin of the scrotum, then we have the tunica vaginalis, which is this white membranous sac around the testes and epididymis. Then I'm going to have the tunica albuginea, which is the white part of the testis itself. And then I'm going to have muscles. So I have the cremaster muscle, which on this model is a sling, hammock-looking thing to pull the testes up. On, say, this model, that's been cut here, but that would be the cremaster. This little dotted line would be in the scrotum. That's the dartos. That's the wrinkler. So this one doesn't show a very good dartos. It's hard to see. But dartos, cremaster would then lift the testes. If I look inside the testes, this one is about as good as the other one. I see my lobules, which are the spaces within the testes containing the seminiferous tubules. the rete, which is the kind of the kidney bean area, and then that would then drain into the epididymis. So let's see if that one's a little better. Does that show better? Nope, shows it worse. I think that's all the male parts. Let's check. Yes.
Here's the histology too.
Let's do some histo. All right. So, testes with seminiferous tubules. You know they're seminiferous tubules because they look like this. They have multiple layers, usually of cells, radiating down. The sperm will be in the center. Spermatids, to be formal. The spermatogenic cells would be the ones on the outer side. So they're making sperm this way with meiosis. But then you have cells which are different looking, like number 7. Number 7 appears different than the other ones. That's a nurse cell or Sertoli cell, a sustentacular cell. They help feed and nourish the other cells. The other ones that are different are the ones that are not in the circle. So these ones, which are interstitials, also known as Leydig cells, they make testosterone. So these make sperm, these make testosterone. Then my epididymis looks the same as this, circles, but the circles are different. These are usually one layer of cells, maybe 2, instead of multiple. They're bigger lumens than these, and you see a lot more sperm piled in the center than here. And that's where they go to grow up, basically. So this would be ciliated epithelium around the big lumen like that. Then a seminal vesicle. This is actually a lousy picture of it, in my opinion. But a seminal vesicle is going to be sponge-like, honeycomb, as I show it. So it'd look like this, but these wouldn't be so nice and round. But it'd actually look more like this. But sponge-like, honeycomb-like, whatever, because all the fluid you make. The one thing you don't have in this poster is the penis, so let's find a slide of a penis.
Oh, there's this. Do you want this one? This poster?
We can do that.
Okay.
It has a penis on it, and not a picture of a penis. That's okay. We can live with this penis. Or you can do my tie. All right, so on the penis slide, you'd see the 2 corpora cavernosa, the eyeballs of the clown. The spongiosum is the mouth of the clown with the urethra inside of it. Then in the center of the eyeballs, you have your deep arteries, which are the center ones. And then all the spongy tissue, either called spongy tissue or you call them venous cavities, another way to say it, but that's here. So you have spongy or venous cavities and deep arteries. Then you have a wrapping around it, all this kind of white space around it, which would be your tunica albuginea, which is encapsulating each section. You good?
And where's the basement membrane?
Basement membrane.
Is it all on the outside?
Well, yes. Basically, it's this tunica.
Okay.
Basically, what holds the blood part from the fascia part.
Got it.
You good?
Yep.
Let's do girls. Yes, we're on the other side. I love that picture. That's my favorite. For that slide on today. For that person. For me.
Interesting.
Eye of Sauron. I guess that Tolkien reference. All right.
Do you need your papers?
No, I'm just thinking which one I want. Because the girls are harder to. They have more variability and less detail. Let's do this girl and this girl.
So do you want me to take that?
That's okay. It's the same as this one. I also hate this one, so she's collapsing.
Just push this out of the way.
All right. Start on the easy model. So on our girl, so we're gonna have our mons pubis. This represents basically the clitoris, internally and externally. Labia majora is the outer lip. Labia minora is the inner lip. Then you have urethra, first tube, vagina, second tube. Anus is missing. So then on this model, if I correspond the two, so mons pubis, this is the clitoris with clitoral hood. Labia majora, labia minora, urethra, vagina, anus. So then if I compare some more, vaginal rugae, one of my favorite words, the ridges, then this would represent the cervix area. So the cervix is the tunnel, basically, into the uterus. But now there's fornices, which are the V's. So you have an anterior fornix, which is the kind of the cup to the front, the posterior ones to the back. There'd be 2 laterals, which you can only see by looking head on. Then I have my external os, which is the outside entrance to the cervix. I have my internal os inside. And this is my uterus here. And I have my endometrium, which is the innermost layers, my myometrium, which is the muscle layer, and my outer, which is the perimetrium. So in this one, endo, myo. And then the endo on this model is separated again. So the innermost is going to be the stratum functionalis. That's the one you menstruate and implant into. The one that's reddish and below that's the stratum basalis, just like in the skin, that makes that layer. So functional layer, basal layer, both are endometrium. Then, because your uterus flops around, it's got spaces. So the back space here is the rectouterine pouch between your rectum and your uterus. The front one, which is here, is the vesicouterine pouch between your bladder, which is a vesicle, and your uterus. Then the uterus itself has a body and a fundus, which is the floppy part like in your stomach. Then if I tip up or right here, I have my fallopian tubes or uterine tubes or oviducts. They go around, there's an ampulla, the isthmus, and then the fimbriae, which are the fingers, which go on the ovary, which is right here. The ovary has a white part, which is the tunica albuginea, same as the testis. Right? Then I have to do my ligaments and whatnot. So the problem with ligaments is they're all over the map. So if you go from the uterus forward to your pubic bone, those are called the round ligaments, which are here. On this model, it's here. And on this model, it's basically here and here. Then if you go sideways to your ovaries, those are called the ovarian ligaments, which would be here and here, or there. Then you go back to your butt, basically, uterosacral, which are these two here, go in your sacrum, or this one here, or they cut it off, but it's this one here. Then it's sitting in this broad ligament. This is what's called. That's the yellow here. This is the broad ligament here. All this tissue here. Or this one, you can actually see the broad ligament that's sitting in. And that's broken down into three. So the mesometrium is the part next to the uterus. So mesometrium there, here, and here.
Slower.
Okay. Here.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay.
And here.
Okay.
Then you have the mesoalpinx, which is between the fallopian tube and the ovary, which would be here, kind of there, and kind of there. The only one that's missing is mesoovarian, which is on the ovary itself, which on this model is shown as this little depression here. This one, honestly, I don't think shows it very well. And this one doesn't show it very well either, but it's this little wrapping on the ovary. So all those would form the basket the uterus sits on, with the other ones going to each side. Then, that leads us to tissues. So,
Shine on that thing.
uterus. You're going to know uterus because it has the squiggly worms, also called uterine glands formally, in it. So you have a lumen, you have all these little lines, and then the bottom would be where the muscle is. This is the myometrium here. The endometrium is there. And the endometrium is broken down into two. So if you look kind of with your eye, there's sort of a difference about here. So functional layer, I'm going to say, is more up there. Basal layer is more down here. Then I have a fallopian tube. Fallopian tube is going to look like a star, snowflake, depending on who you talk to. And it has some muscle, but not as much muscle as the vas deferens did in the male. So it's not nearly as muscular. And then, vagina, we don't have a picture of, but that would look just like an esophagus, just with some differences. Stratified squamous epithelium with some glands and whatnot.
More blood vessels.
More blood vessels, a little bit more weighty. Then we have to do breast tissue. Let's find some boobs.
It's right over there.
Bring me your boobs. There's it. All right. So, we'll start on the easy ones. Nipple and the areola is the colored ring. Then, if you think of this as like a lung, it makes some sense, but the whole thing would be a lobe. So, lobe. I'm saying there's 3 lobes I can see. that each lobe is broken down into like mountains. So lobule, lobule, kind of lobule, lobule. And then each of those is broken down into a bump, an individual sac. So alveoli. So alveoli are the individual bumps on the lobule in the lobe. And those drain down the lactiferous duct, which you really can't see, but the lactiferous duct comes out right here. And those are your lactiferous sinuses, which are just before they come out the nipple.
So it's like a backwards volcano.
It's like a backwards volcano. Or it is a volcano.
Yeah.
Just wrong.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a bad
So this
visual
one's
image.
Two volcanoes.
Two volcanoes, yep. Okay? And this slide, I don't think we have.
What about the poster over here?
Oh! I always use the girl poster over there. That's the only one that shows the external picture.
Here, flip this for you.
But we can also see some other things that aren't on the other models. So for example, we can see the lateral fornices, where the vagina forks to the side of the cervix. This also shows the osses pretty well, the external, internal, and the crypts. And then, let's see, this one kind of shows a little more detail on the fallopian tube. So the fimbriae were the fingers, the ampulla is kind of the corner, the isthmus is basically the tube itself. But on most of the models, these all sort of blend together. But there's a difference in their name. This also shows the suspensory ligament, which is on none of our models that I'm aware of. But that's one that's going to hold your fallopian tubes up in position, which is not shown in the models. But the main thing that you want to focus on this poster is the external vulva shot. This shows you the external one. So we have their clitoris with a hood or prepuce. We have our minora majora. There's a crus to it, but you can't see it on the models. But there's a V that it forms. So you have majora, minora, vaginal urethral orifices, clitoris with hood, mons pubis, pudendal nerve, pudendal triangle. I think that's it.
And then the graph, are we going to need to know that for...
Yes, that'd be good for your lecture part, is knowing the menstrual cycle graph, which thou shalt know for your exam. Next week, thou shalt. Draw this poster on your exam.
We can do that.
I can do that.
Is that it?
That's all. Pretty sure.
And you'll be posting that?